All right, it's 9 o'clock or so. Let's start. We'll call the September 10th meeting of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments to order. I'm Holly Williams. I'm the chairman, and we will go to our right with Eric Stone, El Paso County Commissioner. We'll go ahead and go around to introductions.
Eric Stone, Teller County, and am I a vice president or vice chair? Vice chair of PPACG.
We'll go over to Andy, actually.
Andy Gunning, PPACG Executive Director.
I know.
Dave Donaldson, Colorado Springs City Council.
John Graham, Mayor, City of Manitou Springs.
Todd Dixon, Mayor, Green Mountain Falls. Bill Wysong, County Commissioner, District 3.
Corey Applegate, County Commissioner, District 4.
Jeff Mosier, Special Projects Director, City of Cripple Creek.
Jeff Bond, representing Peterson, Schriever, and Cheyenne Mountain.
Karen Thompson, Mayor Fountain, just visiting over here, sir.
Okay. All right. Online, we have Steve King representing the Mayor of Monument, Will Shaw, the Rama Mayor, and Brandy Williams with the Colorado Springs City Council. And as I always say, for those who are online, Amy Mitchell, Park County Commissioner. For those who are online, if I miss your hand, speak out. So thank you. I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor Dixon also move.
Well,
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Stone. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Public comments. If there are any public comments, they can be made before or during the meeting. Public comments during the meeting are limited to 3 minutes and can be done at the meeting location remotely or remotely by using the posted Microsoft Teams link. Individuals are encouraged to notify the meeting organizer before the start of the meeting with the agenda item they would like to comment on, and public comments can be submitted before the meeting via email. Are there any public comments, Jared?
Madam Chair, we did not receive any advance requests for public comment, and I do not see any hands raised online.
Okay, anyone in the room? All right, thank you. Our first item of business today is our update by our El Paso County Treasurer, Chuck Brorman, on a property tax payment program.
Thank you very much, Chairman Williams and other board members. I first must start out by asking for your forgiveness. I had originally scheduled to be on your agenda last month, and I have a new administrative assistant. I had, as Holly probably knows her very well, Mary Bartleson, who retired from the county after 39 years. And we hired a new one, and she's very capable, but I asked her, put it on my calendar and verify the details. And if you don't check that box, it makes it a Teams meeting. So I'm sitting in my office. I'm usually there about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting there preparing and the like. And then 9 o'clock comes and goes. And I thought, well, maybe you're waiting for me to come online, and then it gets to be later and then nothing. So that's my apology. So I beg your forgiveness for not being here last month, but I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about this exciting program that we're offering and the unique capabilities that we give our citizens. So we are introducing a property tax prepayment program. Currently, citizens who own property have a couple different opportunities by which they can pay their property taxes. So if you have a mortgage already, you're making that through your mortgage lender, making those payments for your tax payments and your insurance. But once you own your house free and clear, people can have two options. They can either make a payment in April or two half payments, one at the end of February and one at the middle of June. They have those opportunities. But we get a fair number of citizens who come in who are stressed because they own their home and they may be home rich but cash poor, especially as they get in their more senior moments of their lives, and it can cause a lot of stress for our citizens. And we come up with an opportunity. We thought maybe other counties around the country was doing something. It's the first in the nation that we act like an escrow company like what you do for your mortgage company. So we create this opportunity for our citizens. I do want to touch a little bit. I want to backtrack just a little bit. You know, there are a couple options for citizens to lower their property tax payments. The senior homestead exemption, which if you're 65 or older and live in your home for 10 or more years, you can take advantage of that. And the disabled veteran exemption program, which is dearly cherished in our community. And then the property tax deferral program, which is something that not a lot of people are aware of. But what it is, it's for those citizens who are house rich and cash poor. They can borrow from the state of Colorado, and it places, unfortunately, a lien on your property. So if you're in a situation where you can't afford your taxes, you can apply for this program through the treasurer's office, and they'll pay that taxes, and then they'll just put a lien on your home, and then you're free to pay that at a time when maybe you have the funds to do that, or you can let that be settled when maybe the home changes possessions. It's a program. I'm not happy about a lien, but it is something out there that's a benefit for those citizens that find themselves in that type of situation. So we offering this first in the nation budget way of paying your taxes, a prepayment program to make it into smaller monthly installments. So like I said, we have first in the nation. We started here in El Paso County. We have 31 other counties now in Colorado that are making it available to their citizens. So probably Teller and Park and County are probably also offering it now for their citizens. So we worked with a vendor, our vendor, Auto Agent, which provides this escrow service. So if you go to a website called escrowtaxes.com, or if you can go to the El Paso County Treasurer's webpage, just in your search engine, put in El Paso County, Colorado. Make sure you put Colorado, otherwise you'll get El Paso, Texas. And then put those key search words in. It'll take you in. It's on our front page, and we got a lot of great information about the program. So it's a full service, secure, cloud-based portal system that's designed to enable residential and also business owners can take advantage of this too. I know a lot of businesses put money aside every month for that, but for those that want that capability, we can set up a program for them also. So property owners can make payments through escrowtaxes.com. They can do it via check, ECH, debit or credit card, or if you're up into those things now, digital wallets. That is an opportunity for citizens. So think of it like level billing or budget billing you have with utilities, where you can break it down into small little chunks. Benefits to property owners: it gives them a peace of mind. It reduces big bills and de-stresses the cash flow concerns. It's easy to enroll or use. If you're a little reticent about websites, ask your 9-year-old granddaughter or grandson to help you with the page. It is secure and compliant, PCI compliant, so you have the utmost of security in making payments through that portal. And then it automatically auto balances. So let's say you signed up last month. It looks at past property tax bills and divides up, okay, you have 10 months between now and when payments are due. Let's say your property taxes are $2,400 and you got 10 months. It'll break it up into 10 payments of $240. Now, at the end of the year, our county assessor provides a document to the county commissioners who then approve it, and then to our treasurer's office. And then we prepare that statement, and they'll adjust taxes based on various different metrics. So if that changes what you owe, that software will automatically rebalance that so that you will have the appropriate amount of money taken out in time for your payments. So I like to tell our citizens, just like the old adage of how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, how do you tackle large lump sum payments like property taxes is just in small little bite-sized chunks. This feature is available for property owners that own their home free and clear, or for some homeowners who have a mortgage but have made arrangements with their mortgage company that they're going to make that payment. It's available for that. But for most people, that is people who own their home free and clear. Like I said, you go to our website, El Paso County Treasurer website, or type in escrowtaxes.com, create the account, and it'll set up the reoccurring payments. If you have any questions, you can contact our office. There is a small cost to this. E-checks are $1, which, you hate to charge anybody fees. You would get feed to death, right? Nowadays. But if you look at postage, is now 78 cents. So it's not much difference between, e-check and mailing that to us. Credit cards, which I'm not encouraging you, but that is at 2.5%. But take the e-check option and make it low cost for yourself. However, if people say, Chuck, I don't trust the internet, I don't want to do this electronically, you feel free to come into our office monthly and make that monthly payment. We can set that up for you. So, but with the cost of gas, once again, I want to steer people to something that's convenient and can save them money. So, we've been talking to a number of groups. I presented to the Board of County Commissioners a while back. Our Department of Human Services has the information. I've talked to Silver Keys, Fountain Valley Senior, and the good folks up at Tri-Lakes. AARP is very intrigued about this program and is going to be covering this in their fall magazine coming up. So kudos for all those that put this together. I've talked to the folks at AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, and asked for your assistance in getting the word out to others. So if you have people you think I should touch base with, please let me know. I'd be happy to go out there and discuss to them and make available this opportunity. I put a flyer on the table for all of you to see, and if you would like me to drop off some at your office or location that you can pass out to citizens, I'd be more than happy to do that. And with that, I'll take any questions you may have on the program.
Commissioner Weissong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chuck. This, I think, also fits into the AAA here at PPACG of trying to get the word out to those seniors that this option is available. So, I mean, what a perfect time and place to introduce this. Thank you.
And I've talked to Jody and stuff like that, and he's given me some points of contact too. So I appreciate him helping extend that out also.
Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And Chuck, thank you very much for this. Thank you for your leadership on this, because you're correct. Teller County is in the process of and just announced a program riding on the coattails of the work that you've done down here. And also want to point out that this is a really, really great example of local government working to find solutions when the legislature is looking to mandate things. We fought this last legislative session because we don't want to, as counties, become escrow banks, for property tax. And it would have required a complete overhaul of your guys' accounting systems, and the cost to counties would have been significant, not only in the cost of the technology, but also in the people to manage it. I can imagine that the customer service level that you would have to, rise up to in order to do a program like that would be unbelievable here in El Paso, most certainly. But anyway, just wanted to thank you for your leadership on it, and thank you also for your immediate willingness and desire to share with other treasurers around the state, because I love it when a local county does something to help their citizens and then they end up helping the entire state. So congratulations and thank you very much.
Sure. Well, I like making good things happen for good people, so that's part of my mantra and the like. And you're correct. Part of this motivation was, the General Assembly wanted to mandate some things that were going to be very costly for our citizens and would have caused a complete rewrite of Title 38 and what we do for tax liens. The cost would have been astronomical for software, the cost for additional staff, because now we would be talking about not taking two payments from, Teller County is how many property owners? Probably around 30,000 or so, probably.
Less than that, 25.
Yeah. So multiply the number of interactions with your citizens by 6 times if you went from 2 to 12. What would that would cost with respect to staffing? And then also the timing of our distributions to various entities. In El Paso County, we have over 300 entities that get distributions from us periodically, and some of them, like fire districts, they need that money at the beginning of the year for fuel, diesel fuel and stuff like that, for to get in advance of fire season and stuff like that. And this would change their revenue stream and put a lot of stress on them. So, when I testified in opposition to that bill, I told the legislators that I thought there was a way to find a private, private market solution to this. And this was propelled us to do this. And I have to give credit to Auto Agent, who did this in 8 weeks. So,
Nice.
and if it would have and for us to have done this separately in the state of Colorado, it's estimated it would probably cost $250,000 for treasurers to pull their resources together to put something like this together. So it's a win-win all the way around, and it might be one of those things that we say to citizens years ago that this one of the best things we probably have done in a while. So, not to take away from any of your efforts. So,
Mayor Pro Tem Schall and then Commissioner Applegate.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity for this. From what I understand, most banks have a bill pay option. Is that something that individuals can coordinate with their banks with the county, or is the county accepting anything like that?
yes, you are correct. A lot of counties do take electronic funds, and they could possibly set that up. It's just about what is statute with respect to when those payments have to be made. This is a prepayment, so you're collecting it in advance. So, different statutes in different states and locales as to how one can do this. But yeah, you could bill pay this through your bank, U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, any of them could do something similar. And if that's how you would like to do that, we can make those arrangements also to do that way. I'm not partial to one idea or other. There's if there's other ways to do this, I'm all open to doing that for our citizens.
So basically, an individual can set up a specific account just for that, so they have, in essence, their own escrow established that they have control over, that doesn't interfere with their other checking accounts or savings accounts, for their peace of mind that something ain't going to run amok. That is a viable option.
Yes, what you need to do is make sure you do that in advance. So the beauty of this program is that they have our data as to what the property taxes have been historically, and they calculate that for you. But the citizens can do that too. They can go back and look at their past statements and calculate that, and then work with their banking institution and set that up. But they just need to make sure that that's all taken care of before the statutory due dates that taxes are due. So, but yes, they can do that. It's just a little more probably overhead and planning and execution on their path on their portion, but this brings it all together. And if there is an adjustment in their taxes at the end of the year, escrow taxes has that information and can adjust your payments going forward a little up or a little down based on what that new amount is. So it gets to be a lot of elements in it. But no, certainly citizens can take this on themselves and do also.
Okay, Commissioner Applegate.
Do you have like 20 or 30 of these? I want to bring them to the Fountain Valley Senior Center next meeting we do. So it's like I can give them out to the people. So Fountain, Whitefield Security Area could have these. So I don't know. So at the end of the meeting or later, yeah.
I do. I have them. I will bring them to
Right on. Give me a whole stack and I'll get it to them. Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, we'd like to thank Treasurer Broerman for coming out, for his innovation, and for collecting all of our money.
Yeah.
Getting it out to all of us in a timely fashion.
I hope I'm your second most favorite tax collector after Matthew in the Bible. So.
Yes.
Or your individual treasurer in your county. So, all right.
I promise you, the U.S. government's not my favorite. So.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we are going to hear from, it's actually an honor to have Keith Klein here to speak with us. And Keith, you'll have to remind me what the name of your organization is.
Right, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to all of us for hearing a little bit of history about our organization. And hopefully I'll leave enough time that we can field some questions about recent turns of events within our military community sphere here. I'm thrilled to see that either in person or online, we have a representative from each base in attendance today. And welcome to them, and thank you to them. So my name is Keith Klain, and I am an Army retiree of some 21 plus years. Colorado has been my home base since 1977. I'm a past MAC chair and the current chair of what's called the Colorado Defense Alliance. Its history up until last year when we rebranded, started a rebranding process a year ago, was the Defense Mission Task Force, led years and years ago by Larry Fortner. Major General Larry Fortner retired, then eventually by Wes Clark, the two of them who twisted each of them on one arm to get me to take it on as they wanted to retire. And it's been a joy to do that for the last 10 years or so, just after serving for a year of 2016 as the Military Affairs Council chairman. So the DMTF was organized in the late 80s, consisting largely of retired senior military folks and other respected community leaders in an effort to get after the challenges posed by the base realignment and closure rounds that kicked off in 88. The last round was in 05. There would be back-to-back rounds of those base realignment and closures or BRAC. You may recall that we lost our 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson during that time in 1995. It was this group that I now lead that was formed and led the local effort to combat that. I think they were officially named in 93. They'd been working just as a collective for a few years up until that point. But we lost the 4th Infantry Division at Fort Carson in 95, regained it in 2005. And lots of things went on in those intervening 10 years. 2005, that last of the BRAC rounds, was a round where we were one of only 7 communities in the nation that realized a net gain in the process. There were winners and losers in every round. In that 05 round, we were one of only 7 in the nation that realized a gain. And we got that 4th Infantry Division back in 05. We had lost about 25,000 soldiers and family members, 40,000 folks altogether in 95, 96. Started to get them back in about 05 and 06. Believe me, that is not a situation we want to replicate, that we'd like to see happen again, and we need to be very, very careful about that. Towards that end, the group, as I now run it, we try to be as proactive as we could be. They really had no choice about being reactive back in the late 80s, early 90s, as things were coming at them pretty fast and furious. But these days, we try to be as proactive as we can be. Colorado Defense Alliance, CODA for short, because we operate doing these things for bases and other military assets all over the state of Colorado, interacting closely with the Lieutenant Governor's office, Trinidad, all the way up to F.E. Warren, the missile fields, where we have projects going on as well. So I was invited to join the all-volunteer DMTF upon my retirement from the Army in 1999. So I got in on about the last 5 or 6 years of effort towards recapturing the 4th Infantry Division. I brought with me nothing but a desire to continue serving this sector or this community, a fresh Rolodex that didn't hurt us in the process of recapturing the 4th ID and its return to Fort Carson. It's very important to note that those in those intervening years between the loss of the division in 95 and its recapture, about $500,000 was raised here locally, and many, many trips to our nation's capital were invested in the effort. Additionally, in those years, working with then Congressman Joel Heffley, familiar to many of you probably, and his young staffer Jeff Crank at the time, which he reminded me we'd known one another 27 years ago. A couple weeks ago, he mentioned it. We had worked extensively with the Nature Conservancy, TNC in short, to acquire easements and land around Fort Carson in what would prove to be a precursor effort in protecting that base, its mission, which, thanks to our community's initiatives, earned Fort Carson the reputation at the time for being one of the most buffered bases in all of the Department of Defense. There were no formal federal programs for doing that sort of thing at the time, which is what I meant by precursor, because today there is a federal program, a couple of them actually, which my group is heavily involved in working with conservation partners, the Nature Conservancy still, same people involved, by the way. We've known each other now almost 30 years, as well as the Trust for Public Lands, and our local partner is the Palmer Land Conservancy. But we do that for bases all over Colorado and including into Wyoming with F.E. Warren. It's also worthy of mention that the DMTF, I've already talked about a rebrand starting this last year, largely because we're doing this kind of work all over the state. I want to read into the record, if I might, just a couple of paragraphs, 3-4 paragraphs out of some writings we've done, if you don't, or if you'll allow me. And I want to allow then for some questions on these recent turns of events. It is imperative that we as communities, which have been entrusted with our country's most important national security assets and missions, do our part in protecting those assets and missions on behalf of the nation. The economic vitality they represent, not only for our local communities, but for the region and state, call for our best efforts to preserve their current mission viability and future capabilities. Our communities, along with our installations, must be competitive when the inevitable opportunity arises for new mission growth. Just as no one could have predicted all those many decades ago what our capabilities or what our adversaries' threat capabilities would be today, neither can we predict with any degree of certainty what our capabilities and the threats to those capabilities will look like many decades from now. Can't possibly know. It is, however, certain that with the rapid advancement in technology, AI and machine learning in particular, the capabilities and threats alike will continue to grow exponentially and are doing so daily almost, and at unprecedented speeds. When the installations in Colorado and similarly all around the country were in place, in our case, between 45 and 85 years ago, Fort Carson at 85 years old is one of our nation's youngest Army bases. Just spent a few days with some folks from the Secretary of the Army's office, showing them around town and around the base a little bit. And he pointed out to us that within the Army's inventory today, they have 271, as I recall, is the number of buildings in the Army inventory that predate the birth of our nation, are still in the Army rolls. So at only 85 years of age, Fort Carson is one of our newest Army bases. So when those bases were in place, but in our case, between 45 or 85 or more years ago, remote sites comfortably removed from civilization were chosen for good reason. And that's why today most of them remain in the county for good reason. Generally speaking, and to further protect those remote locations, the land surrounding the bases remain zoned as agricultural or for other low-density uses on purpose. As supportive communities, we'd be well advised to respect the wisdom of those who selected the bases in the first place, the locations for those bases in the first place, and keep some distance between them and close in development whenever we can. At a very minimum, ensuring that those lands closest to the base remain zoned for the lowest possible density and use. All of that is not to say that we don't recognize a developer or a landowner's rights to request things, right? To request them. Our position on those sorts of things would be, and we are pro-growth, we're pro-economic development. We just think it ought to be done intentionally and smartly. But we have to consider the greater good in many cases. These 5 bases we have each generate on average in excess of $1 billion with a B dollars a year in economic revenue for our community on an annual basis. To consider putting them out of business or restricting their ability to grow or forcing them to draw down over time, as happened with the missions that are now at Schriever at their past location, is unthinkable to me. It's unconscionable. So we have to be very, very careful with these national security assets we've been entrusted and respect the fact that they are huge economic drivers that cannot be easily replaced in our marketplace. I'd add that I was pleased to see just a week ago at the I think it's roughly the 28th August, that each of the bases was represented either in person or online. I appreciated that fact because they all realize that they're similarly fated to the outcome of those kinds of discussions, decisions. that the way it goes for one base, it could easily go for all the rest, right? It's how the mood in a given community shifts over time from supportive to more liberal and more private property owner rights based, which is it's great. But as a community, I've been a real estate broker almost 40 years, ever since well before I retired, actually. We take those things into account all the time. I'm just a farm boy, right? I know that having a rooster next door to me here in the community, which isn't allowed, by the way, would be problematic on the 20th of June when he crows at 5:20 in the morning, right? So we take that kind of thing into account all the time. Those are private property rights, no different than any of the others that we talk about. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit, or I'd like to have a discussion, maybe have some questions about process, how we go about arriving at these things, right? We've seen a variety of processes from ordinances the end of last year to reversal of those ordinances by the voters this summer, by other methods used at the county to decide these things. Interesting conversations from my perspective anyway. Hopefully you'll agree. So I think I'll leave you with that for the moment, see if there aren't any questions. And if there aren't, then I'll probably add a couple other final thoughts. Questions?
Are there any questions in the room? Councilmember Donaldson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Klein, for being here today. And I think it would be useful if you could just give a little history of how Schriever did arrive out here in El Paso County and where it came from and what happened to it, where it used to be located.
Okay, glad to do that. About the time Commissioner Wysong was leaving Santa Clara, California, he brought those missions, much to his credit, and I give him full credit. I just learned of this morning, but full credit to him. He brought those missions with him to Colorado Springs in about 1986 from Santa Clara. I was mentioning to him that I spent quite a lot of time TDY at that base that lost those missions in Mount View, Santa Clara area of California back in those days, testing a particular helicopter the Army was developing at the time. So what happened was those missions, sensitive to a long list of things. I could read you some of that list, but were being encroached upon in their home base in Santa Clara, California, essentially restricting their ability to function.
What do you mean by encroached upon? What is that?
Encroached upon by development, commercial, residential development. In that particular case, that part of the valley there, and Bill can probably weigh in, but that they were replaced by things probably that maybe arguably had even greater economic impact. The whole Silicon Valley thing was blowing up about that time, so they didn't suffer maybe as badly as we might with no Silicon Valley waiting in the wings if we do similarly to what Santa Clara allowed to happen by that physical encroachment on those missions and their ability to grow those missions at their last base. Now, it wasn't only Santa Clara. What we see at Schriever today is an aggregate of missions that came from other places, primarily from that area of California, aggregated out there at Schriever in the middle of nowhere. One of my predecessors, General Wes Clark, God rest his soul, we lost him last year. He was one of the gentlemen on the ground, boots on the ground out there with measuring equipment, staking out the original location for Schriever Falcon at the time. Actually, I think it's called Space something. I've got it in my notes. Something else, even before it was called Falcon, back in the mid 80s as they staked it out. It was originally just one section, 1 square mile. Today it's what, Jeff, 5-6 times that. It grew again, I think, in about 1990. For that very reason, we realized, or the powers that existed at the time realized that there was some pressure on that. I read the letter from Assistant Secretary of the Air Force into the record at the county the other day that talked extensively about that. It talked about how our county commissioners, the state land board, would be in the state of Colorado writ large, would be important partners in that process of protecting those missions at that new remote location. It talked openly about it. This was in 1985. Right. So in about 1990, they acquired a lot of additional land. But, and I get that question a lot. Well, why don't we just continue doing that? Well, where would that logically end? what kind of money would it take the taxpayer, either a local taxpayer or at the federal level, to keep doing that? Just keep buying land and buying land and buying land as our capabilities increase, or as the threats to those capabilities increase. In other words, our adversaries can get at us from greater and greater distances. Just like we can reach greater and greater distances, so too can our adversaries get at us from those greater distances. And on any given day, you could have a great debate over cocktails as to who's winning that effort. But it is an effort, and it's ongoing on a daily basis. And we've made a lot to do about the base is going to come up with a SOICUS, and Jeff Bond, sitting right here, coined that phrase to his credit. The Space Operations Installation Compatible Use Zone Study will happen, but I want to set some expectations for that, and some may try to skin me for having done it. But if you are the sort that has made up your mind already about the way that this needs to go, if you are the sort that doesn't take into account what is already in our joint land use study, the recommendations that came from that, the advisory nature of that, you're going to be disappointed that this study, the results of this study that we'll spend a lot of time and treasure on doing, will also largely be advisory. If you've already made up your mind, you've made up your mind. It will advise against certain things, but it will not say you shall not, you cannot, you will not. It will not be full of that sort of language. It may advise against those things, just the way our joint land use study has done, much of which is replicated in our master plan. But if you're the sort that has made up their mind and you're just going to have it a certain way, that study, while it will help our efforts to protect the missions at that base to some degree, or at those bases all around the country, Space Force bases all around the country, it will not tell you what you cannot do. We still have to exercise discretion. We still have to make an assessment as to whether the monetary things we're putting at risk, the economic things we're putting at risk, are outweighed by the personal interests of any particular entity. We have to decide that as a community. We have to decide that as a community. I watched in horror the response just a week ago to what was, in my estimation, having been in this community almost 50 years, what was really the first ever recorded vote, if you will, that might be perceived as being less than helpful to retaining those economic assets, to retaining those national security assets. And that's why that message is important to each of the bases. They, again, are similarly fated. If we have mentally made that transition, that que sera, sera, kind of let it be what will be, that is a major shift for this community reputationally. And I fear for us in that regard. I'd ask us to think about those things more sincerely. And I know these are tough votes. They are tough. Lots of opposing interests at play. They are tough. But we have an opportunity, a point-in-time opportunity here as a community to self-identify. Use a popular term of late. We can self-identify and put it on our business cards. Are we going to be for these things unabashedly, or are we going to be willing to put them at risk? Okay. Any other questions? Mayor Thompson, thank you. Mayor Thompson and the city of Fountain sponsors some of the expenses that we experience through our work with the Colorado Defense Alliance. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. When 4th ID left, I wasn't here yet.
Right.
But I know when they came back, and then when they deployed again. And when they deployed, and then they deployed I'm not a military person, so I don't know the right word, a whole brigade, I guess it would be. It devastated our city. Absolutely, because they not only went to deployment, then I believe they went to Korea and Texas or something else and didn't come straight back home. Businesses were shutting down. These military bases are critical to the survival of our cities. And I mean, literally the survival of Fountain. If Fort Carson were to close or even just significantly downsize, it would have dramatic financial consequences on our city and our community down in our area. So I really beg people to think of that, because they are these military people, they come into our communities and I love them. They are vital to our communities, whether they decide to retire here for if they're here 2 years, 3 years, but they're spending money in our communities, people. They're buying the homes and they are helping to support our way of life that we have here. So I cannot stress enough how critical it is to protect the infrastructure around these bases. And the JLUS report came out 10 years ago, Andy, now?
Soon. 18.
Okay,
Yeah.
not quite.
It should be 10, yeah.
And one of the highlighted things in each of those areas, that's why I asked Andy if we could send it out to the board members, is encroachment upon our bases in a variety of ways, right? Not just, it could be the lights from something on the top of Monument Hill, right? Could be encroachment if they're trying to do something at night, or in our area too. And we've worked really, really hard, I think, to be supportive of that community. And I think we need to remember that, but not only how it could devastate us in losing those bases, but what it would do to us economically. I mean, for Fountain, it would be horrendous. So thank you for all the time you are volunteering into this. I can tell it's a passion of yours. And I just really appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you. And that's why Fountain is sponsoring it, because we realize that.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it was devastating, not just to the city of Fountain, in which I lived at the time, by the way, as I served at Fort Carson, but it was devastating with ripple effects all throughout the community, particularly devastating on the south end. And a lot of things you don't think about. What do we brag about when we're out there trying to compete for other businesses and, workforce and ready workforce, a professional, disciplined workforce? And where do they emanate from? Right, about 700 of them on average a month are leaving the service of our nation right here into our community. That's the last number I heard anyway, is about 700 a month. Disciplined, seasoned, loyal, come with families, spouses, most of whom perhaps are going to be working if they aren't already. So there is so much to consider here. While enriching a particular family, a particular company, as appealing as that is, we must consider the greater good or the greater harm. Other questions?
Commissioner Weissong, and then back to Councilmember Donaldson, then we need to be wrapping up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish I could take credit of moving the Space Force here or precursor, but I can't. But it was nice to know. Keith, and again, thank you for all you're doing. What can PPACG do to help protect the bases as a community, and maybe just briefly touch on the Sentinel and REPI programs that really are the backbone for what we need to do?
Absolutely. This is a unique forum, as all of you are well aware. Within the region, these types of forums, wherever they exist, are unique and beneficial in many ways. You're a convener of all of this tremendous local leadership. Tremendous thought occurs and actions, supportive actions occur here. We rely heavily upon the work that the military support team that they bring to bear from this entity. To my thinking, what you could help us with is think through this process a little bit, the process of how we go about making these decisions, right? We've seen, and I've described it briefly, we've seen a number of different processes. That was January or December of last year, wasn't it, when the ordinance was passed to do the annexation out east, which in May into June we're voting on. It's just been referred to the voters after a petition effort. So that's two processes for one. Neither of those processes, by the way, at the outset, very flattering. If you're a military base, you're thinking, we're seriously even considering this? We're going to allow the conversation? We don't have built-in protections to ensure that within a reasonable distance of these critical pieces of infrastructure, national security assets, we don't have a plan to protect them? It's a sidebar. 3 weeks ago, I was a co-leader of a group from a national defense contractor you would all recognize the name of, that's considering providing our conservation efforts for these bases with the match funding we needed. We had 23 of them standing on a little hill outside the visitor center at Schriever. We're talking about, okay, this is what we're up against there. This is what was recently defeated over here. On and on and on about these things, trying to justify their support of our efforts to protect those missions and the bases. And the senior most guy at the end said, pardon me, he said, I don't mean to embarrass you, but did we not just drive through 9 miles of undeveloped land to get to the edge of this base that we're standing here having a conversation about having to protect? This is a quote. Senior retired military officer, senior in this particular company, asked the pointed question, do you not have a planning committee? Do you not have a planning committee? The letter that I read into the record at the county meeting last week from that Assistant Secretary of the Air Force, who was known to many in the community, many of our senior leaders knew him well. He addressed the very same issue using almost exactly the same language. As I was reviewing that letter before reading it into the record last week at the county, I'm reading it and I go, oh my God, that is almost verbatim what the senior retired military officer, now senior leader at one of our national defense companies, contemplating having to give us money to help protect that mission. Almost a direct quote, 45 years later. The same thought process. So pardon me for that, but there are some things we do procedurally. I don't know the long history of them, but I'll suggest to you some things. This period, we call it what is an extrajudicial period or quasi-judicial period that we elect to do, and I'm not sure what triggers it, what forces it, or if it's even force, or if it's just custom or procedure that we might change, that takes from an open dialogue, that takes from the right to converse, debate, discuss these issues immediately in advance of a vote on those issues. How wrong is that? That we take away that period of time where the public might weigh in, where there might be a public discourse, a conversation, in particular when it comes to these things that have huge implications for the community writ large. And we take away the public's right to have that conversation for those days, weeks, or months in advance of an impending vote. We have put tremendous pressure on our elected officials here at a local level like this. I'm not popular in some circles for even saying it, but our elected officials, whether it be Fountain or Monument or City of Colorado Springs or our county commissioners, whether they realized it or not, when they were sworn in, they swore in, knowingly or unknowingly, to make decisions on issues that had national security implications. We decide which way we're going to go with a Schriever. You just made a national security decision. It may not come to pass for 30 years or 40 years. It may not affect you, your children, but it will almost certainly affect your grandchildren. Right? And we did all of that without allowing a public discourse on the subject. We gave, and we only have two choices when you show up at one of those meetings, right? At a vote, you're either for something or you're against it, which I also object to, frankly. We're not my group who's trying to protect these economic drivers, trying to protect these national security assets. We're as pro-growth as the next person. We're as pro-economic growth as the next person. We, along with the leadership at every base, every leader I've ever heard talk at a base about, I need more housing, more affordable housing, you have to put that in context, which is easy for me. Turns out that's not easy for everyone else. And it's not easy for everyone else because we don't have this public discourse about it. We assume that he or she wants affordable housing, something that doesn't exist for any of us really, on his fence line. False on its face. False on its face. They know how to reach you. If you own land adjacent to their fence line, they know how to reach you. If they'd like to partner with you to build something on their fence line, they know how to reach you. Right? But the way the law works these days, or lawyers work these days, our litigious society, that base can't tell you that. It can't tell you whether they support that development or they're against that development. Any suggestion in the press one way or the other that might suggest differently is somebody extrapolating something, because the bases will not go on record with you whether they support it or don't support it. They cannot and they will not. And I don't care if you're talking to the local base or you're talking to the senior commands. And oh, by the way, most of these decisions about whether something like that would be allowed in the first place locally, that decision is, it's unlikely that it would be made locally by the base or by that respective service.
And Mr. Klein, I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Our chairman has stepped out, but we do have, I think, 3 additional questions we want to make sure we got to.
Absolutely. Let me
I do want to make one comment to you, though, just as
please.
I share your frustration about the rules regarding ex parte communications prior to a quasi judicial proceeding. That's not something that we can even change as local government.
No, I understand that.
So, but your comment, though, is well noted. Just as in Teller County, we have a growth management plan that we know where we want to encourage growth and where we want to discourage growth. And for those communities, and counties, obviously, that host military bases or are neighbors of military bases, that's in their best interest, obviously, to review their master plans, growth management plans, and adopt them as official documents that become guiding for planning commissions as well as for the body itself when they come forward. So Mr. Donaldson, we're going to move to you, and then we've got Steve King and William. I can't see the last name online. Yeah, thank you. So let's start with with Dave, and then we'll go to Steve and William.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. And just for your information, Mr. Klein, for an annexation, like the annexation, the Carmen Line annexation, there were no ex parte rules during that process. That's why I could go on the radio and talk about it and meet with people and talk about it. But for rezones, development plans, things like that, there are. I don't know exactly the different names over at the county. And then what I think would be useful is there's a lot of people who have never been in the military. They don't really know. They may have been in the military. They don't really know what like the mission of that is unclassified, that is conducted out at Schriever. So they don't really understand why building right up to the fence line is a problem. And there are people who get out there and tell you why it's a great thing, because then you could go out and get your lunch real fast from a military facility or a base or a military installation. Can you touch on some of that? What are some of the reasons, in plain English, not it could impact mission, I get it, but how will it impact mission? Can you touch on some of those things? And Schriever is a special animal, but even regular places like Fort Carson, they get complaints about artillery fire. They get there's security issues just by having things where they can look inside the wire. Can you touch on that?
I can. I can touch on that, although I would suggest to you that the way things are going for all of our bases in the nation, and most of what we're talking about is not unique to us, and I don't mean to pretend that it is, right? I'm on a national board and serve on a national committee leading 50 state leaders like myself and the 4 territories for the Association Defense Community. So these things, all of our bases around the country are wrestling with. So just let me put that out there. This is not unique to us in any way. It is unique to us. Schriever, I would submit to you, is getting potentially less special by the day in terms of relative to other bases. And many of our bases, Buckley, Fort Carson now, if you're at all paying attention to what's happening with the new division commander down there and why he specifically was chosen for this job and what he's bringing to the conversation, the fact that Fort Carson represents our nation's test division, if you will, for all of the most modern communications technology, electrons, right, flying around, electrons, same as Schriever. Fort Carson is on the cutting edge of drone technology and testing and implementation. You cannot pick up a paper without reading about that. And when I pick up my first paper at 4:47 this morning, and it happens about that day every morning, we call it the early bird, you get your eyes filled and your head filled with these sorts of things that are happening all around the world. I might submit that those of you who are in an elected position that have to make decisions with this gravity for your community, that I suppose with that territory goes the responsibility to be as informed as you can be. And since we know we can't do it in this these quasi-judicial periods, we have to attain a certain level of understanding and knowledge, as does our community. It would benefit the whole of our community to know these things. There's nothing I talk about, nothing that comes out, generally speaking, that isn't already open sourced. It's open source. You can read on any given day. I think in the early bird this morning, that's an internal to the Pentagon kind of paper, but you can subscribe to it as a citizen. There were no less than a half a dozen articles that talked about drone here, drone there, kamikaze drone, inert, doesn't even have to be armed, or an armed one that can drop a hand grenade. The whole spectrum of things, communication, electronic warfare, and the like. Schriever is unique to us in the respect that our global satellite, GPS satellite system is flown from there. And if you haven't had the chance to visit, I'm certain that could be arranged for most any of you, given your positions. I'm certain it could be arranged. You'll go in there and you'll see 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds flying computers that are flying satellites that the world relies upon. The world relies upon. As one of the authors of all three of our Space Command, co-authors of all three of our Space Command proposals over the years, since 2018, the first. Question 1 was formatted specifically. It could have been written for our community. They gave us 88 lines to talk about all of the ways that the missions that are currently ongoing in your location would directly support U.S. Space Command efforts. We literally took 88 lines and didn't have room for a comma. We were using acronyms. We filled 88 lines of just facts. It did not read well. Again, no commas, lots of abbreviations, lots of acronyms, 88 lines. And we would joke that many of the other communities that were in the conversation or in that competition, they could say things like, every ATM transaction in our community is driven by the mission at Schriever. Every gas pump transaction in our community is driven and necessary by the mission that's conducted at Schriever. That's how closely they could tie their efforts to what's going on at Schriever. We had 88 lines of acronyms, barely room for even punctuation to talk about all the things we brought as a community to that conversation. So it's significant in that regard. I recently learned as a farm boy from Minnesota that my brothers and nephews who now are in the farming business, they rely on just the tractors, and they literally aren't even really driving these tractors anymore. But they have to have 7 satellites to get the degree of accuracy that they need, so they're not taking out rows of crops as they cultivate, which I was an expert as a kid. Turns out it's difficult to read a book and cultivate at the same time. But anyway, 7 satellites. Only half of those, though, can come from the U.S. They end up relying on other countries' satellite systems to get 7 so that they can get the level of accuracy that they need. So in any event, for our nation, for much of the world historically, Schriever is important in that respect. There are lots of reasons we can't talk about why it's important. You know, what we hope to do in the future is just literally the week we're having a vote on their fate. To some degree, last week, we're opening a new facility at Schriever, right? What worries me the most about these things, when we send these signals, when we put them out there, and if it weren't for the U.S. Space Command decision, this would be a lot bigger news than it has been this week. Our choice last week has been kind of overwhelmed by the Space Command conversation, which is a different conversation from the Space Force. We lose Space Command. We don't know yet necessarily, or you see a lot of debate about whether it's just the headquarters. What's that, 150, 200 people? Is it the whole command, about 1,700? I think if you watch such things, the Huntsville paper said in a mere 3 years, they could be ready to temporarily house the command group in a mere 3 years. So this isn't going to happen overnight. We've seen how one administration can see it one way and another administration another. Our political team, such as it is working hard to try to bring sense to it and to think of the long game. But we as a community have to decide, and we have to put it out there through our actions, not just our words that we support the troops, but through our actions. We have to put it out there that we support these efforts for the nation. And yes, it's self-serving to some degree in our own economic interests, notwithstanding the national security interests. But we have to do that.
Okay, so what we need to do now is let Mayor Pro Tem King speak and Mayor Pro Tem Shaw, and then we do need to cut the conversation because we have other people here to do business, but we appreciate your comments.
Yeah. Next, please.
Thank you for
King. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just this is a bigger issue for sure. We have to really decide what we want to be as a county, and I see us as a military county, and I respect our military operations to the fullest degree. We're next to the Air Force Academy, and I spend a lot of time on that installation as well, talking about these very issues. I have a little bit. I'm all for property rights too, but I have a little bit of a different opinion on those. And what I say by that is the property rights that you have are the rights that you have currently. And as elected officials, we should be looking to landowners that have rights as well. And the military also has land rights. So when we come in and increase adjacent properties' land rights, it diminishes the adjacent property land rights potentially. And in this case, it's a national security issue. And the fact that that doesn't seem to apply in a lot of cases is really troubling for me. If we want to maintain our position as a military county, which I hope we do, we have to pay attention to the national security issues that come with that. I certainly don't want to see any more installations move out of the county. And I just want to say thank you very much for stepping up and making these statements, because this definitely helps how we have to look at this in the big picture. So that's all I had to say was that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you know well, your community wrestles with these things also. A base not too far removed from your community, I can tell you, fielded in the most recent 12-month period 90, just under 90 of these statutorily required notices that come from either a city, a county, to consider a development action, a land use action, a zoning change. 90 just to one of our bases in a 12-month period that they had to respond to. Some of these requests come with hundreds of pages of supporting documents. It is full-time work and then some for a team of attorneys to address those things. And I would submit to you that a large part of the reason that's necessary for that base and their sister bases around the community, that they have to do that, is because we have failed to plan, or more accurately, we have planned to fail. If you look at our county master plan, and you look at those areas that have been identified as ripe or rich for development, for annexation, for expansion, you will see in direct contradiction to the language that's in the master plan, inserted or arrived at largely through the joint land use study process, in direct conflict with the map that shows where development would go. And it shows that development, all along Enoch Road and Curtis Road, and I am not certain, although I'm drawing some conclusions as we go here, but I'm not certain if those areas are identified in that master plan because the people who happen to own those lands wanted them in there and were able to help advocate to get them in there, or if that is truly where our county thinks the path of development needs to go and put them in there. Mysteriously, this 9 miles of undeveloped land I mentioned a few minutes ago, already annexed, mind you, doesn't appear as ripe for development. That's where the whole leapfrog thing, the whole flagpole thing, and who amongst us thinks that it can be done cheaper 10 miles out? By the time you build the roads, you run the utilities, you provide those services out there that you hadn't thought of in advance. How are you going to do police, fire, emergency response? I know we have another question waiting, Commissioner. Yes.
We need to go to Mayor Pro Tem Shaw, and then we do have to continue on with our meeting.
Glad to come back for 4 or 5 hours anytime later. Mayor, please.
Yeah, hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this. I have lived in El Paso County my entire life. I've never left it. I have an extreme value for all the military in the area. People have no idea how valuable the military really is to our local economy, not only just going to the store and shopping and the real estate. There's a huge impact there. And I have a fear of disgruntlement from the military given some radical laws that just went through our state legislation. And that's going to have a heavy impact on our young military families, you know, where they live off base and attend public schools. Is there any contingencies talked about that may help protect our military families from that so they will be encouraged to stick around? Because if this keeps escalating like it is, I could just see young military families scared out of their mind that over some misunderstanding or being told how they're going to raise their child is going to impact them, and they can lose their child now because of the state legislation. Do you know of any contingencies that's going to help protect that? Because it's a domino effect all the way up to not just a neighbor of a military base, but this is our neighbors and our communities all the way around.
Well, thank you for that comment and for those concerns. And I would submit to you that our bases today rely more heavily than they ever have by design on the communities in which they reside. They rely on us completely. We're their child care support system. We're the spousal employment support system. We're the education support system. And the like, we are all of those things. So we only need to look internally as to how we can protect them as a region. And it has to be done intentionally. It doesn't happen by accident. And sometimes your own worst enemy is just down the road. That's absolutely true. But there's some good news going on, right? Housing affordability in the apartment sector, at least, is coming down pretty nicely. But there's a cost even to that. Right? As home prices fall, for everyone that benefits, there's a loser in that my property values just went down, right? So in any event, yeah, thank you for those comments, Mr. Mayor. And the onus is on us in these communities represented here today to be that support system, to run the interference that needs to be ran, to respect those needs and work with those needs within our respective communities. And I'd submit that most of you are doing a great job of that. And thank you for it. Any other questions, ma'am?
We do need to go on. So thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate them.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to David Tukmanian for comments from one of our military bases. Air Force Academy, I think. Fort Carson.
Hi, Madam Chair. Good morning. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time this morning. I'll be brief. Just a few comments from Fort Carson, or updates from Fort Carson, rather. So first off, as the song goes, the Army keeps rolling along. We have soldiers deployed all over the globe right now, specifically in the Pacific Theater, in the Middle East, and even at our own southern border. So to Mayor Thompson's comments, we're constantly pushing soldiers out and welcoming soldiers back. So just keep that in mind as you deal with the soldiers in your community and the stresses that are on their families as they deploy. Next, So listen, Army Air Force, and I hate to say it for our Air Force counterparts, but they're going to lose on November 1st. But we'd like you all to come out to the Air Force Academy and witness that thrashing. I think there's going to be all kinds of events going on, bonfires and whatnot over the days preceding. So please come out to Army Air Force. That's going to be a great time. Yesterday, we hosted the Chief of Army Partnerships from the Pentagon, Mr. Dave Lineberger, and we're going to try and do our best to bring him back for the Front Range Partnership and Strategy Summit that we host annually. This will be our 5th year. That's going to be on 7 November. Plan on seeing invites to that probably later this week or early next week. We're still hammering out a venue. We have a few options, but we're just weighing them right now. But we'll get that solidified, and then we'll send out invitations here shortly. So with that, I ask for any questions, and if there are none, I'll turn it over to our Air Force and Space Force counterparts.
Okay, are there any questions? I think we might need to hear from Colonel David Herndon next about that little challenge there.
I don't know if it's
Madam
a challenge, Madam Chair. I don't know if it's a challenge. I saw West Point lost to Tarleton State, so I don't know that our Falcons are all that concerned about that game later. But it's an exciting time to be an airman at your United States Air Force Academy. The cadets are in full swing right now with academic, military, and athletic requirements. We wanted to extend thanks to our communities across the Front Range for supporting our cadets, our military families, and our service members that are operating out of USAFA. We also want to send some thanks to PPACG for what I'd categorize as a successful wildfire post-fire flooding exercise that happened on August 20th. I know Commissioner Wysong, Fountain Mayor Thompson were in attendance along with other senior leaders, but we had some fruitful conversation and exchanges about future mitigation efforts, some memorandums of agreement that probably need to be relooked, and just broadly how we are integrating. So thanks. I also want to pull the thread on Mr. Klein's kind of presentation there on encroachment conservation efforts and provide an update from our readiness and environmental protection integration team, who partnered recently on the acquisition of 7,160 acres of the Bohart Ranch from the Colorado State Land Board, which will bring approximately more than 19,000 acres of protected area surrounding our Bullseye Airfield. Our cadets train at that airfield regularly. This is a crucial kind of acquisition from an encroachment standpoint that not only enables public safety, but also the safety of our cadets that are in training in that flying area. Last two updates for the team that we want to provide. This weekend on Saturday, we will host at the Falcon Club at the Air Force Academy a retiree appreciation day. That's going to be from 8 a.m. until noon. There's going to be all types of discussions on benefits, estate planning, VA updates, and we just invite everyone out to come and participate as we celebrate our Front Range retirees. Additionally, we are continuing to work on how to work traffic situations and scenarios associated with home games. Our next big home game is against Boise State. That's where our focus is, not on West Point. And that game will happen on the 20th of September. And so we'll continue to coordinate with local authorities and others as we expedite traffic and try to prevent any backups there on I-25. Madam Chair, that's all I have from your Air Force Academy. Standing by for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's not forget the Navy Academy. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go to Jeff Bond. Thank you for your patience, Jeff. We appreciate that, Colonel David, and David took Manian, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to the
PPACG board. I have to modify a few of my statements that are preempted by previous discussions, but one thing I wanted to inform the board was subsequent to the September 2nd announcement of U.S. Space Command moving to Alabama, I asked the command, which is a tenant of Peterson Space Force Base, if I could provide a statement to you all, and here's what they gave me. Currently, U.S. Space Command is taking community questions on an individual basis regarding their transition and timelines, end quote. If I have already provided contact information to a couple of PPACG members. If anyone has a desire to reach out to get some specific information, I'd be happy to pass on the contact information on. So just phone a friend, call me, send me an email, however you want to reach me. Regarding the Flying Horse East sketch plan, leadership would like to convey that they're committed to working with the parties involved to ensure we reduce the effects of incompatible development impacting our nation's space operations and preserve the vitality of Schriever Space Force Base. Our space operations installation compatibility use zone study will continue to move forward in its inception and design. In more local matters or operational matters, Peterson Security Forces hosted an event with El Paso County Sheriff SWAT members to create a collaboration. And I'm told that there's going to be an initiative to set up a training exercise later this month. We do partner with the Colorado Springs Police SWAT division, and it sounds like this is the first time we work with the county, so that was very cool. Peterson Explosive Ordnance Disposal members competed in the National Robot Rodeo, who would have thought, but it was hosted by the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, and the spirited event created connection between military and civilian public safety and international bomb technicians. Nobody said what the results of the competition were, but it sounded pretty cool. And finally, there's a wage grade employee testimony hearing set for September 23rd that involves all federal agencies in Southern Colorado to be afforded an opportunity to speak to the challenges and successes of the health of our federal wage grade employee recruiting, retention, and quality of compensation in comparison to their peers in the surrounding workforce. Information from this hearing will be compiled at the national level and used in part for locality evaluation in conjunction with a commercial enterprise survey that's going to be set to execute after the first of the year. Just thought y'all might not like to hear something like that, something that the Department of Defense and OPM do to help evaluate peer wage conditions to ensure that wage grades who get paid differently than a GS employee does are getting fair compensation so that hopefully we can hire and recruit and retain the best people. Subject to questions, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, item number 4 is our consent agenda. Unless there's any questions, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Mayor Graham, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Item number 5A, revised CDOT 10-year plan update. Sorry, Jared, we're not quite to you.
Oh, we're back on. We're doing work.
I'm reading the minutes. I'm
don't
sorry.
worry.
Ha!
And as you're flipping to that page, Madam Chair, just want to emphasize too, before Jared kicks us off, it's a discussion about work groups. None of these are super time sensitive, and we can step through these pretty quickly and just in the interest of time to get us back on track. So yeah, Jared.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't get enough sleep last night. So
No, you're good. I was like, what? We didn't properly notice it. Jared Werner, Public Policy and Communications Manager here at PPACG. But we're starting first with a committee restructure. This is something that we discussed a couple of months ago in creating a work group definition. And then this is essentially formalizing that with 2 committees that we're looking at moving into that definition. So we'd be looking at creating the mobility coordinating working group out of the mobility coordinating committee, and then the air quality working group out of the air quality technical committee. As per the bylaws, we have developed the following scope and purpose for each working group. This is largely taking from their existing bylaws as they would transition into this working group. One of the requirements for this kind of working group is identifying a standing committee that if anything policy related did come out of these groups, which we don't anticipate it, these are primarily just information sharing, primarily just getting the right people around the room together to discuss these issues. But if anything policy related did come up, these two would send those to a transportation advisory committee, just based on the nature of those topics. That was the standing committee that fit both of those. We workshop this essentially with both of these committees. No form of vote was taken, but I would say the feedback was largely positive, just because they understand that the purpose of this is to try to help these working groups actually accomplish and do the work of actually just kind of coordinating it across different agencies across the region. As Andy said, this is not a time-sensitive discussion. If we need more time to think about this, we can, but this is up for potential approval from the board.
Okay. Do we have any comments? Commissioner Applegate.
I do. I wanted to bring up. So he stepped out of the room, but I wanted to give a shout out to Andy Gunning. So I went to the NACO conference, National Association of Counties, in July. I was in Philadelphia, and we actually brought a proposal forth, like a resolution, and it was for ozone requirements. And so basically, if there's like a wildfire or some event out of state, like what we're experiencing now, there's like stuff in Alaska, basically that we don't get dinged on our ozone if we go over by the EPA. And I know especially that applies for like, say, Denver, where they have a lot of smog. That applies. And Andy was vital in getting support, not only from other counties across the other states, but bipartisan support for this legislation. And it passed 37-0. So that's something NACO is going to focus on. They're going to start lobbying Congress. So like out of state events that we can't control, we're going to push for that. So, and I do like the idea of this air control working group. So air quality working group. So.
Mayor Thompson.
I've spent a lot of time discussing this, and so I am completely comfortable as someone who's been a big MCC supporter and kind of living in that world. So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Jared, your next item.
I'm still here. And so Commissioner Applegate actually stole a little of my thunder, but that's okay. No, that's because we're going to talk about this a little bit. So legislative committee met on Monday. Among the topics we discussed, we looked at two federal bills that we had identified for potential positioning. And those two bills are on the screen right now. Legislative committee would move to go into support position on HR 4585. This is the Agricultural and Rural Road Improvement Program Act. What this does, it moves some funding around, creates a new formula program for this rural road improvement program out of the carbon reduction program. But this would, the way it's written, I kind of equated to this does a kind of a last mile support. And so while, say, for example, US 24 is a federally designated highway that gets that support, the mile of gravel road to the elevator may not be. And this really helps kind of get those kinds of, whether it's bridges or roads, being able to support those activities. It's worded as just an economic driver. So this, our position would be like, hey, this, while it is focused on agriculture, this could help on any kind of rural economic issues, to be able to get from the highway to wherever you need to go from that. So that's HR 4585.
And Mr. Stone has a comment on this one.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize to the committee. I was unable to be on the meeting on Monday, but from what you're describing on HR 4585, that sounds like something that Park County might be very, very interested in, because they are struggling mightily to maintain the road off Highway 24 going to 11 Mile. I think Commissioner Mitchell's on, but if this is the type of bill that would help Park County, to deal with the heavy volumes of traffic, whether it's, like you're saying, commercial to an elevator, or in this case, commercial traffic to a recreation zone, then it's probably something we need to be supporting. Thank you.
And I'll just throw in there, in terms of sponsorship, this does have a Colorado sponsor on the original sponsorship. It is Congressman Hurd. So while not in our region, he is on the appropriate House committee that can really move us forward. And so that's what we're looking at for 4585. And then jumping to 4218, we're advocating a monitor position on this one. It's a consistent legal expectations and access to records act, otherwise known as the CLEAR Act. While the title sounds incredibly, what does it mean? This is an air quality focused bill. And this would, to Commissioner Applegate's point, this would really look at what's called the exceptional events category. We're still looking at this with our environmental contractor at Two Roads Environmental to really kind of get our arms around this particular bill. For as much as it does, she's not hearing a lot of chatter about it, and we're trying to just get some more information before we really take a strong oppose, amend, or support position on this bill. But that's kind of where we're looking at from a monitor perspective. So those would be the two bills we'd be looking forward, the positions from the board today.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Move to approve.
Okay. We have a
I'm
motion.
moving along now.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any other concerns, except for one of them's not very clear. Sorry, couldn't resist that
CLEAR
one.
Act, yeah.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, financial policy review. Carol, we've been looking forward to this.
Good morning, Carol McBroom, PPACG Finance Director. So yeah, today we're going to talk about kind of a two-step process to look at our financial policies. What we're going to look at today are some brand spanking new policies, and I'll talk about those in a second. The process will be next month. I will bring back the complete financial policy for your review and hopefully adoption. But for today, what's going to happen is we're going to go over some new policies. And basically, these are situations that have occurred that we are now capturing in a formal written document. So let's start. But before I start that, I really would like to kind of shout out to Mayor Case, who's not here today. She and Councilwoman Jennifer Herzog from Fountain helped kind of review the policy. So that was precious time, and I really appreciate them doing that. Okay, so the first policy I want to look at is called the Board of Directors Authorities. And the purpose of this is to define the board's oversight and decision-making roles as they appear to our financial policies. And basically, this policy is derived from your bylaws. The only addition that makes it a financial policy is we are saying that we will bring to you on grant applications and budget investments, long-term debt, and oversight on program changes. And the dollar threshold is $250,000 on new grants. We also, in our financial policies, are adding that the approval of annual member dues and salary pools will be a board responsibility, as well as the adoption of an annual work plan and strategic plan updates. We're saying that we will provide monthly financials and mid-year updates. We will provide an annual budget and members' dues on member due changes, and that there will be a monthly executive director report that would include any personnel changes. So that's just an overview of what we are in the new board policy. Any questions? Great. I will move on to second policy we're calling the executive director authorities. And the purpose of this is to establish executive director as the chief administrative and fiscal officer. This is a new policy that we've created. The key responsibilities for this policy is to oversee financial health and compliance of the organization, prepares, manages an annual budget and reports, maintains internal controls and safeguard assets, and oversees grants and public funds. We're suggesting that the delegated authorities would be to approve contracts and expenditures, sign grant application and compliance documents, manages the line of credit and the reserve funds, and approves personnel actions per HR policy. And again, the board interaction would be the monthly executive director report, and the executive director would alert board to significant deviations from policies or budgets. Any questions on this one?
I got one question.
Councilmember Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarity, the executive director being established as the chief administrative and fiscal officer, basically the CFO and executive officer as one position, correct? And is there something different from the way it's currently structured?
It is different. That sentence right here actually came from the contract, the personnel contract between the board and the executive director. But realistically, he is responsible. That position is responsible for the finances of the organization, but not under kind of an employment title. I mean, you know, I as finance director, I do handle the finance part, but with his guidance.
Okay.
Does that help?
That's the clarity
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I had. Thank you.
And I had a question. So in other words, the buck stops with Andy, but on signing the grant applications, I know, do we have a limit where he would rather have the chairman of the board sign it? So if we're applying for something really big.
So do you mind?
Yeah.
Sure. So based on the board policy that we created, we will come to you with any new grant application over 250,000. Does that help?
That helps, yes. I know there's a lot of AAA grants that are smaller. I think some of the bigger transportation grants we'd want to bring to the board if there were the 250,000. So
Yeah, the board would approve all of those, but then once you approve them, I've got signature authority to execute those grants with our individual contractors then.
Okay.
So if that makes sense, yeah.
Yep.
Chair Williams, I had a quick question.
Yes, and then we'll go with Commissioner Stone. So Councilmember Williams.
I'm just curious, how often do we utilize our line of credit?
We have never utilized our line of credit. It's sitting there, you know, in cases of need.
That's what I was hoping you would say. Thank you.
Good question, Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And Councilmember Williams, the history on that was, I believe, was about 18 months ago. The HVAC system was completely kaput here in this building and needed to be replaced. We sought a grant from the Colorado Energy Office, did not get that grant. But the board did not want to go into debt to pay for that. And so they did authorize Carol and Andy to seek a line of credit, but to not access it unless reserves dipped under a specific level. And with that, actually, it might not be a bad time to kind of brief this new board about the status of our reserves in relation to what happened after that project and where we are in building those reserves back up, maybe for a future meeting, Andy. But
yeah, happy to. Or we can dig into it when we bring the draft budget forward. I think in October, is that when we're thinking?
Yes, it's actually will be a part of the draft budget process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to congratulate Andy and Carol for, you know, the good management of our cash flow and reserves and funds to ensure we haven't had to access that line of credit. I think that was the intent of the board, you know, was to have it available, but hopefully, and actually, I believe Councilmember Donaldson was a major advocate of going in that direction. I think it might have been his idea, but so it's welcome back. It's working out. But anyway. The comment I wanted to make was actually the second part of that, which was to get an update on that, on the reserves and where we are in relation to that project. Second question, though, is in regards to compliance documents. We did have a controversy over state requirements for training that we did. I think, if I remember correctly, it was within certain types of grant funds that were received, and in our area, it was Teller Senior Coalition and our transit and training, which was thought to be required, but was being passed on, and it was it was causing problems with our volunteers who were beginning to quit. And my only trepidation about is just saying that, fine, handle all the compliance documents, and that is that there may be certain situations where the board might have a problem because of not fully understanding the second and third order effects that compliance would have with our NGOs, who are the boots on the ground, and the effects that it has on their volunteers and their employees. So it's more of a comment than it is an objection to that. And I guess it's more of a request to you as executive director to ensure when you see something that knowing your member organizations of, hey, this might be an issue, is that you would bring that to the board.
Yes, that's a very good point. And if we can weave it into here, I'm not sure if it fits within financial policies, but totally duly noted. And on that particular issue, that was never fully executed by the states. We didn't have to require that of our AAA contractors, but I'm communicating with Jody telepathically, and maybe when we bring our RFP to the board, which you will approve, that would go out to the next round of funding for the AAA, or if it's for other programs that we're funding, whether it's through the TIP. If we know of new training requirements or other new executive orders that are coming down that are really of note, happy to be the one that kind of flags which ones would really be significant that we need to bring to the board and make sure that you're aware. Sometimes we don't have the authority to approve or not approve those stipulations, but we could also say, well, we're not going to accept certain fund sources then if we have to comply with training requirements or other things we feel that are kind of onerous or just don't fit within our missions. But yeah, absolutely happy to take that on. Yeah.
Mayor Thompson?
I completely concur with Commissioner Stone's statement. I think if there are new requirements like that to the NGOs, they need to be highlighted within the document so that they are aware of those changes and they can choose whether to accept them or not. But I believe it needs to start in our level. So if the department heads see changes like that, they need to make sure that Andy is aware of them, so that nobody is surprised anywhere around the table or anywhere in the building. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Stone.
Okay. Do we have more on the financial policy?
We do.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, next one is called signature authorities. The purpose of this policy is to define who may approve signed financial transactions and commitments. This is a new policy. It is, again, in place, but we are putting this in writing. Currently, we require 2 approvals for check disbursements. It is the executive director or a designee. The second signature would be the board treasurer or an authorized board member. Internally, expense authorization requirements come from the department budget manager. Finance has to approve, executive director has to approve. Again, we're going to bring to the board any major program changes. We're going to bring to the board grants, applications, and changes, or changes on grants that are above the $250,000 threshold. We're going to bring to you the budget, and we're going to bring to you member dues and salary pools. So that's all on signature authorities. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I want to know why you duplicated those things in 1 and 3. Having written enough of these documents, you already said that we were doing it in section 1. I don't understand why you want it in both places, because then when you change something, you'll have to change it in 2 places. So what's the difference between 01 and 03?
There is no difference. I mean, that's a great point. I'll make my life simple.
Pick one, I think that would streamline it.
Okay, well, I'll take it out of this one, the signature authorities.
Yeah, because no one needs to sign that, but the board does need to approve it.
Okay, great suggestion.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the next one is called member dues management. And remember, this is a financial policy. So this policy provides structure for calculating and using member dues. This is a new policy. The key points, we will set dues annually. Well, the board will set dues annually. It'll be guided by the July Denver CPI. The formula is based on the abstract of property assessments. It's split 50% counties, 50% municipalities. The uses of the dues will be grant match requirements and non-reimbursable expenses. The finance department will generate annual invoice and report on dues and the monthly annual financial statements. And then your board role would be to approve the dues annually, not manually. annually. Okay, any question on the member dues management?
Any questions? Okay.
Okay. Next one, treasury management. And as Commissioner Stone mentioned, this has to do with the reserves, but the purpose is to ensure financial stability, liquidity, and prudent use of funds. This is a new policy. The key points is to maintain a cash reserve greater than 17% of our operating expenses. It's going to, long-term debt requires board approval. The executive director may draw on the line of credit if bank balances are under the $1 million, and we will report on that monthly. The banking partners must be FDIC insured, and we will reconcile with finance oversight on all of our treasury management activities. So any questions on this one? This is
Commissioner Stone.
I do have one question, Carol. Is that bank balance of less than 1 million, is that consistent with how we originally set up that line of credit?
It is how we set it up. Yeah, I picked the 1 million based on our monthly expenses. I wanted to make sure we had a pot of 1 month's expenses covered.
I just didn't know if we were making any change to what we'd originally conditioned that line of credit on. Thank you.
No change. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question on your last bullet. Your independent reconciliations and finance oversight required. What does that mean in English?
Well, I guess it could have just said internal controls, separation of duties.
So
I can't.
So
there's certain things I.
Yeah, when I read independent, I'm thinking third party. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, we do have an auditor, a fiscal annual audit that will come in. So for sure, that is an independent reconciliation as well.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't know is, I mean, I would like to assume that finance oversight is required, but do you feel like we need to put it in writing?
Well, so, okay, just one thing to mention, these are just summaries. This isn't the policy. The policy is
asking,
so this is just a summary of what I created in the policy. The policy is a longer document that's also included in your package. Does that help? So I don't want you to get too bogged down on this wording right here. There is a bigger.
I think all of us would just like to assume that's a given and that it doesn't need to be in writing, but I can look at the specific policy.
Okay, and I'll double check too. It's been a while since I've looked at it. Okay, any other questions on treasury management? Okay, next one is capitalization and asset management. Purpose is to establish standards for capitalizing, depreciating, and disposing of assets. This is a new policy. And basically the big change on this one is we're going to capitalize, we're increasing the capitalization threshold to $10,000. Right now, our policies show $2,500, but per our compliance governance of 2 CFR 200, we can increase it to 10,000. So it just makes sense for us to do that. So that's really the only change on this policy. Any questions? Okay, the last one that we'll talk about is our procurement regulations. This one, the purpose is to establish compliance with federal, state, and grant procurement rules. The last time you reviewed the PPACG procurement was back in 2009. So the key points is this procurement regulation has been updated to comply with 2 CFR Part 200, the federal executive orders, and all of our funding agencies. The big change to this policy is we have increased our competitive proposal threshold to 50,000. It was 25,000, but we're allowed to increase it based on the new federal guidelines. The other kind of big pieces, we're noting that the finance director and executive director must review all MOUs, service agreements, and legal agreements. And the executive director will be the ultimate legal, will sign all legal agreements. And I just made a note of the board role would be the oversight of procurement policy and thresholds to ensure compliance with federal state requirements. And that is it, if there are no questions.
Madam Chair, could I have one clarification back up on that category of bullets where it said competitive procurement, 50,000 is the cutoff. There are competitive quotes that we get below 50,000 as well. Just want to maybe clarify that's maybe the cutoff point for formal RFPs, correct? But if it's below 50,000, I don't recall the exact categories, but we still get quotes and there is competition for smaller informal procurements.
Correct. So this is just, you're right, just the RFP process.
Yeah.
And actually this right now, the transportation procurement policy that the program uses is 50,000. This just raises the procurement policy to match what the transportation program states. It's the same.
There we go. Thanks, Jared. It's on the screen now. Yeah.
And again, next month I will bring back the whole financial policy. I don't expect you to read it all. I don't read it all. I just want you to know that we do have great internal controls. We're still considered a risk-free auditee or a low-risk auditee. We're in good shape. So just know it's going to be kind of a big document.
So
I'm sorry.
Oh, I know that we're going to have a big document to look through when it comes time. When this goes up when we go for our audit next year, will the auditor also be looking through this document? I'm just wondering if we need a couple volunteers to split this financial policy document up to read it.
So I have two answers. One, Mayor Case is looking at it as well as the Fountain Councilwoman, Jennifer Herzog. So I do have backup. Two is part of the audit is they are asking questions, and basically the questions that they ask and the answers that we were given are part of the policies. There won't be any difference between what occurred in 2024 audit and what's going to occur in 2025. It's just we're going to be writing them down to formally have them and approved by the board.
And we appreciate Mayor Case and the city councilman for working on this, because this is obviously a big project, but I think a very worthy project.
Absolutely. And it really does just memorialize what we've been doing and putting it all in one place in one document for auditors' purposes, but for board approval and just for internal controls. So Carol's been at it for the past year, I think, on these, and just it was time to do this.
And just for clarification, give the shout out. It's Councilmember Jennifer Herzberg, and she works for Navy Federal Credit Union, and so that is kind of what she does for a living too. So she's a great person to have on board.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will go ahead and look at those and vote on them next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Our next item, it's that time of year when we start talking about evaluating Mr. Gunning. Okay, Sherry.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Board. Sherry Hoffman, PPACG Generalist. In your board packet is the timeline for the upcoming evaluation of the Executive Director. The email containing the confidential evaluation will come from Employers Council again this year. I will send out the email address in advance of the actual evaluation going out so that you guys can let your IT departments know what that email address will be and hopefully add it to their safe sender list before it comes out. So, because I know that it's a little bit different of an email, and sometimes it does go into junk or just goes into a phishing net and never goes anywhere. So I will make sure to send that out, but it will be sent out prior to I'll send you that email address prior to the October board meeting because the evaluation will be sent out right after the October board meeting. So.
Okay, let's all watch for that, especially at El Paso County, where we get big red lines on top of emails when they are questionable. So
I would just ask if everybody just get it and do it and get it done. Okay.
Yes.
I would appreciate that too.
Yes, I guess it's my turn this year to call everyone who doesn't get it done. So watch out. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we are on to other reports and minutes. We have the minutes for the Transportation Advisory Committee, the Community Advisory Committee, the Mobility Coordinating Committee, the RAC, the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging, the Air Quality Technical Committee, and the Water Quality Management Committee are all in. Well, water quality is going to be present.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I apologize, didn't get a chance to give you a heads up in advance, but we're honored to have two of our chairs here to give brief updates on what's been happening. Ed Dills with the Community Advisory Committee and Jonathan Moore with our Water Quality Management Committee have been doing outstanding work. The rest of the minutes are in your packet, but in the past, we've occasionally had updates from the chairs of different committees come and brief the board, and just had a chance to have Ed and Jonathan come and brief you just super briefly this morning on the good work they're doing.
Okay, Ed, I think you're first. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you, Chair Williams and board. Normally we have our own little laid back CAC meetings and they're not as formal as yours, but I am acting chair now. I've been put in that position since Roland Rainey decided to move on to more challenging adventures. He started the year out as our chair. So anyway, it's a great opportunity. One of the things I wanted to point out, we're filling up. We're getting more and more members. We are short with League of Women Voters and Kono under their new name. We're missing them. And a lot of representation up the mountain. We're missing that. As far as the eastern part of El Paso County, which I represent Rama, we've got Kathy Heisey that's representing Calhan. So we're doing well on that end of the county. We're honored, privileged to be able to vet and see the things that we either recommend or suggest that moves on to you. Obviously, you're going to see it regardless of our opinion, but we do have people like Welling Clark, Kathy Heisey, Mr. Clark, several of the others that really thoroughly go through this information. We have some long discussions and some good meetings, and hopefully we're helping you out and we're getting the information out that you need. So I'll keep this short. I know we've been busy. If you have any questions for me, be glad to answer at this time.
Are there any questions?
I'm a boss.
Yeah, we do.
Ma'am,
Go
Madam Chair,
ahead.
thank you. No questions, but I just wanted to take the opportunity in front of everyone to just say how much of a pleasure it was working with Ed, one of the most astute, sound community leaders that we actually have. And the fact that you continue to do great work. When I was the chair, he was the vice. And thanks for stepping up in that role. And you continue to lead the greater, larger Pikes Peak area. And I just want to say thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I guess my only question would be is if when you do have a concern about an item and you heavily discuss it, that you send either you or a representative from your committee to report on it to us, similar to what we do at Pikes Peak RTA. Just
be glad to.
Yeah, it's just helpful for us to know when our subcommittee has reviewed something and finds it a little concerning. So, or Andy can report on it because we know that Andy would if you all
I
had
would add
concerns.
that I really applaud Danelle and John and Jared keeping us informed and helping us be knowledgeable because we're not in tune to things as well as you are. And so it's very beneficial to come into this with a little bit of knowledge and background. And I thank them very much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll be more than
we
glad
like them
to.
too.
Okay. No, we'll be glad to come if there's any.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And then our Water Quality Committee was going to speak. And we had an interesting discussion on Friday about this. So thank you for coming.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Jonathan Moore with Fountain Sanitation District. I'm the chair of the Water Quality Management Committee, which is a recommendation committee to all of you. I was asked to just give a quick, brief overview of what we do and how it works. When a wastewater provider changes something or adds a lift station or adds a new facility, they have to petition the state engineering division for approval. And a part of that approval is the local 208 plan, which is also you guys, you have to sign off on that application. But before it comes to you, the applicant has to go through several reviews. One of those is with the local water quality division, which is Lower Fountain in this case for El Paso County. They review it conceptually. If they don't have any issues, then they recommend it to the next committee, which is SARC, which stands for a Site Application Review Committee. They review more of a technical review, engineering review kind of thing. If the applicant doesn't have any issues or they address the issues, then it goes to the Water Quality Management Committee, which is right before you guys. We review it. If we don't have any issues, then we give a recommendation to you guys. That's kind of how the process works. The committee's made up of a lot of special districts, a lot of local folks. Again, Fountain Sanitation's on it. Security's on it. Woodmore's on the committee. Cherokee. It covers 3 counties, so we get people from Park County, Teller County, as well as El Paso County are on the committee. Several engineers will attend the meeting. County commissioners been attending them, I think the last 2, representing. So we vet it pretty heavily before it comes to you guys. But again, there could be some issues that we have that we pass along. We don't have, again, we're a recommendation committee. We don't have any hammer too much, but most of the time over the last 6 years that I've been on it, the applicants have addressed our concerns. So once it does get to you, we normally don't have any concerns. Any questions for me? I kind of pared this down in the interest of time, just to see if you guys had any further questions.
I just want to state for the record that Fountain Sanitation District is not run, owned, or operated at all by the city of Fountain, even though they stole our name. It's a completely separate entity. It causes mass confusion with people all the time. We do their billing, so I think that does add to the confusion, but they are their own separate sanitation district. So
yeah, I did try once to convince a group of Cub Scouts that water always runs downhill, and they didn't believe me. So I don't know how exactly they were getting that it could run uphill. Mayor Dixon, go ahead.
Yeah, at our Friday meeting, I thought we were going to get some information on Fountain Creek with respect to E. coli and contamination.
That's true, and that's the really interesting report we had from PPACG staff was, and Andy, if you could tell us what that was.
Yeah, Angie presented on that. Yeah, come on up, Angie, and we can bring that back. We weren't primed and ready to bring it back today necessarily, but yeah, Angie.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more information about that, we can definitely get a presentation about, you're talking about the data mapping and the whole 9-element E. coli report. We can get a presentation on that, and Jonathan is aware of that. He's on that committee as well. So this is sort of separate. Jonathan is just talking about our committees and how they work and how all the pieces move together. But if you're interested, I'm more than happy to get someone here to talk about that.
I know I'm personally interested, but I don't know if the rest of the board is or not.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting because we talked about what was going into our creek and how it was getting there, and it sounded like a lot of it was from birds, maybe. So, I think we are all kind of interested as how stuff is getting into it that makes the E. coli too high.
So as a civil engineer in the wastewater industry, every wastewater plant has a permit from the state and what they can release and what they can't release. And E. coli is one of those, and everybody's testing for it. One thing we've noticed is the homeless encampments along Fountain Creek are producing a lot of E. coli in there.
Yeah, I was curious because we've had two reservoirs that have been drained now. And, I got a couple reports when Catamount was drained of some dogs drinking out of the creek and getting sick. So I was curious if the draining of the reservoirs had an impact or if it's something that's local within, like my region of Green Mountain Falls, that I need to take back to the community and say, hey, time out. We really do have a problem here.
And again, the state regulates every wastewater discharger. So they know every day, pretty much, we report to the state.
But we're all septic. Everything up you pass is septic.
Right. So I know people from your community has come to our meetings, and that is an issue for you guys. I don't know if there's something leaking through or what with all the septic, but yeah, so.
And go ahead. I know that, some of it was actually coming up. Now, I know the Air Force Academy, for the record, I've been on and seen what they do up there, and it's beautiful. They work really hard, but some of it was coming up from further upstream too, wasn't it? So I think we want to do a full report.
Yeah, we have some data mapping from the Fountain Creek Watershed District. Ali Shook has a really good presentation, and Colorado Springs Utilities as well. I'll point out that Jonathan mentioned all of our dischargers. They're meeting the requirements for E. coli as they treat water and discharge it to streams or wherever they discharge. It's kind of a non-point source issue so the water running downhill, all water that runs off the surface eventually makes it into our waterways, and so it's coming from more of a non-point source than a point source like a discharger. So we can talk more about that.
Okay. We will plan on a presentation on that, but we appreciate you being here as well. Okay. What do we have that's next is CDOT here this month?
CDOT is not. We've got their project list in the packet. We can maybe pull that up, but I know that Shane Ferguson, John Hall both had conflicts with required training today, and actually may be out of pocket next month as well. But any questions about the projects? I don't think there's any major changes since last month's list.
I would say go ahead, Commissioner Stone.
Well, I'm not sure there's anybody to ask about it. There were a couple of questions that we had about, there's two projects, Colorado 67 north going out of Woodland Park. One is a infrastructure drainage project, but then resurfacing. It looks like they're significantly behind schedule on the drainage, although it looks like they're finally starting to close up ground that we might be able to get back on schedule with resurfacing. Was just hoping to get an update on whether that's going to be completed this year or not, because the North 67 resurfacing was a 2-year delayed project, and just wanted to get some reassurance that it was going to happen this season is all.
Okay, very good. We will ask John Hall and then send out an update to the full group for sure. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right. So you can review the projects in the packet, and we can always ping Andy or John and get some to Shane or John Hall. I know that we had an issue with Baptist Road and I-25, and we got them out there pretty quickly. So, okay, the stack report is we held our stack committee meeting on September 4th. We will not be meeting in October because the Transportation Commission is on the road on a tour. And so we won't be looking at the transportation budget until November. We had a rural roads program overview, a strategic highway safety plan informational update, which I think was pretty interesting. We talked about also too, they had like something like 19 or 20 strategies as to how to improve safety. And each of these strategies actually had a subcommittee, which was really fascinating to me. And they're trying to pick out one or a couple of them and work really hard on them. So we know that safety on our roads continues to be an issue. And so we're going to cancel the October stack meeting and do the November stack in person so that we can look at the budget for next year. And that was pretty much the stack update. And so then I will turn it is Front Range Passenger Rail update. I don't know, Steve, if Mitch was able to give you an update on that. Mayor Pro Tem King.
Yes, I haven't I haven't heard detail about that yet.
Okay.
I think the last meeting was canceled.
All right. The last meeting may have been canceled. Okay. And then the executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two items briefly. Just following up from the work session we had last Friday, we've got a handout that we're going to circulate. Jared or Carol have that. Carol put this together with some help from our managers. But thank you for the great conversation last Friday on our proposed budget, proposed work plan for 2026. I think we made some really great progress and got some really fantastic feedback. The handout that Jared is giving out, something that Carol was the point on. I think Mayor Thompson, you kind of mentioned this, that we in the past have identified, kind of documented what the value, what the benefit is to being a member of PPACG, given the local dues that our jurisdictions pay. So this is a shot at really kind of estimating what the value, what the benefits are, just in one short 2-page handout. One side shows what we could quantify as far as how each jurisdiction benefits from whether it's TIP funding or grant navigation support, things like that, how much money has actually flowed back to your jurisdiction. But a lot of what the support is that you get, it's regional in nature, and it's really hard to kind of isolate just to individual jurisdictions. And that's what the first page, that's a little bit more of a summary.
identifies just what the value of being a PPACG member jurisdiction is. So a little bit of a work in progress, kind of our first shot at pulling something together since the workshop on Friday. But open any feedback, comments, suggestions that you may have. One other thing I should highlight in aggregate, and this gets back to the numbers side of the page, but for $1 in dues that comes into us as an organization, that means $20 in direct PPACG grant revenue that we are eligible to receive because we are the AAA and the Metropolitan Planning Organization and all the other hats that we wear as an organization. That would go away if we didn't have jurisdictions like all of you at the table engaged and paying your member dues each year. Okay. Last thing I'll mention about the workshop and the draft budget for next year, I think it's okay to kind of lean forward on this and just mention, Carol and I have been talking about this a lot as far as what our due structure for 2026 might be. As Carol has alluded to, it's adjusted each year by CPI, the Denver region CPI number that comes out in July, which this year it's 2.1%. So that would be the proposal for 2026 for local dues. We're going to suggest it's ultimately up to the board, but we're going to recommend just holding the line and keeping it at the 2025 level. We can make that work. It's not a huge increase in aggregate that flows into our budget, and we'll make things work for next year. But that's going to be our recommendation when we bring the budget forward for next year that you'll see next month. Okay.
So as a point of history, we were trying to get on a schedule of where we were increasing by the CPI every year. So we didn't have one big, huge increase, but we just know that it's real tough this year with the sales tax revenue coming in slowly in many of our jurisdictions. And so it's just really tough. And so we want to be careful not to overwhelm our jurisdictions. Mayor Thompson.
Well, I appreciate that, Andy. I still would like to see numbers based on staying flat, how that would affect our staff, because the cost of living is going up tremendously, and a smaller increase and that increase. I still would like to see those because I don't want to see us really kick this can down the road where we have to do a large increase in a couple of years.
Right. Yeah, and I would suggest that great suggestion, and we will definitely do that. We'll bring forward scenarios next month at the October meeting. But I guess our visioning of this as well is that we wouldn't try to make it up, say, next year for 2027. We would just get back to the CPI adjustment of what that looks like at that point next year.
Okay.
So we think we can make that work, but happy to bring forward all the different scenarios that we talked about on Friday. Good.
I think one of my main concerns is the cost of medical insurance that is potentially going through the roof, and I want to make sure that we have that for our employees.
Thank you for that. We're not quite going through the roof, knock on wood. We think we have about a 10% increase year over year, which manageable. Not ideal, but it's better than what we're hearing from a lot of other similarly sized agencies. So we can make that work. So we have we'll sharpen our pencils and long discussion next month for sure on the budget. Yeah, good. Second item I just have real quick is a handful of folks I know around the table will be going back to Washington, D.C. as well with the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Corporation fly-in. Jared and I are going to be on that trip as well, along with our chair and our federal lobbyist, William Much. William has been super helpful in setting up some additional meetings that we're going to have, the four of us, Chair Williams, Jared and I, and William, with Representative Jeff Crank, with Representative Jeff Hurd, who is not within our region, but he's on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, which can help us in a lot of ways. We've got a meeting set up, potentially not with Representative Gabe Evans, but with his chief of staff, which will be super helpful as well. Representative Evans is on the House committee that has jurisdiction over air quality issues within the EPA domain. So happy to put some of our issues on his radar. Then we also have a separate meeting set up with EPA administrators when we're back there as well in headquarters to elevate our ongoing ozone challenges that we have. So looking forward to a really full and productive week next week, and happy to report out how we're able to move the needle potentially. Okay, but that's all I've got.
Okay. Let's see. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Let's go around the table with member entity announcements. Councilman Rainey. No announcements. Councilman Donaldson.
I'll also say nothing right now.
Okay, Mayor Graham.
Yes, thank you. Andy had sent out an email last week announcing the passing of Marcy Morrison. I would like to mention that she was involved in many things, had a long career of public service. She started her career as a elementary school teacher, but she really got involved in public service. She served as the mayor of Manitou Springs. She was on the District 14 school board. She was elected to the El Paso County Commissioners. She served in the State House as a representative, and she finished her career by serving as the head of the Insurance Commission for the state of Colorado. She was 90 at her birthday, which was about 3 weeks ago. She was selling T-shirts to raise money for nonprofits. So she was active up to the end and quite an inspiration to everyone. So we'll miss her.
Mayor Dixon.
I'll pass.
Okay, Mayor Thompson.
I would like to give a shout out to one of our NGOs, Goodwill, who works through us. They are having a Friday at their Garden of the Gods location, kind of up, not quite as far up Garden of the Gods as this this Citizens Service Center. Start your Christmas shopping, all sorts of stuff there, homemade stuff, canned goods. I buy my son-in-law likes the oddest combinations. I buy him a chili, pickle, pineapple jam. He loves there every year. So, yeah, anyways, so good organization support, and because they do a lot of good stuff in our community. So that's this Friday, 10 to 1.
Okay. Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to further expand on what happened on August 20th that Colonel Hoagland talked about up at the Academy. A great program, all-day event, looking at the impacts of wildfire. And just as important, the flooding that usually comes, right after a wildfire, as we all know, and Mayor Graham knew from what happened in 2013 after the Wallow fire in 12, how Manitou and Highway 24 were flooded, 3 feet of mud and all the rest. So it was a great eye-opening program. Hopefully we'll be able to expand on that, from El Paso County's perspective. The whole western flank is woolly, all susceptible to wildfire, and then the flooding after the fact. And the major issue is anytime you have a slope of greater than 23 degrees, that's when you get major debris flow, which is what causes all kinds of long-term effects. From a wastewater perspective, as John was mentioning earlier, and Angie, I've been a couple of events. We are looking at what's happening in Ute Pass. There is no wastewater treatment. It's septic tank, and believe it or not, from what public health has said, about 40% of the homes have cesspools still, which is a huge issue, and maybe it will help lead to what's happening in the E. coli and other things in Fountain Creek. I've got a kind of an open question, and this may need to be, thought about and taken offline, but we've got a lot of municipalities that they're struggling. As Mayor Thompson just talked about, that there are issues. I think every municipality, all up and down, in both Teller and El Paso County, have, some financial issues. I'd like to take a look at, what are the issues, and is there something that PPACG could potentially do when you look at joint grant writing opportunities to share resources, share, the expertise that one group may have and the others may not have, and then look at potentially some kind of a joint procurement contract that could, every nickel helps. That if there's some high level opportunities, whether it's at the county levels, that would be able to help pool those resources so that everyone can take full advantage of the best costs available. So I don't know where and how that would potentially get implemented, but I just think that's something that at least we ought to investigate. Thank you.
I'm excited for our DC fly-in next week. We're going to be flying into Washington, D.C. Monday through Wednesday. We're going to be talking with the Colorado delegation, our senators, and our congressman, state of Colorado. And so I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what the chamber comes up with and kind of give us an opportunity as council members and commissioners to lobby Congress. So it'll be a good event. So most of us will be gone next week. So don't get offended if it gets sent to voicemail. So.
Okay, City of Cripple Creek. We invite everybody up. The first weekend of October is our Fall Fest. We think the colors are they look like they're gonna be right on track for being good. So come on up. We have wood carvers and a whole bunch of other activities going on. So let your folks know. Kind of going off from what the commissioner said on communities having issues. One of the things that Cripple Creek, we're still operating 22% down from 2019 revenues. And that's due to our income from the casinos that was impacted by the pandemic. So one of the issues that came up this week is we're pretty darn sure, and Commissioner Stone, let me know if you've heard the same thing, that iGaming is going to probably hit the ballot next year. And iGaming does not do well for brick and mortar casinos. And so as an association, I think we would request, Cripple Creek would request that PPACG consider supporting the counties and the communities that do have gaming to fight that iGaming opportunity. What other states have seen when iGaming comes in, the brick and mortar casinos lose 25 to 30% of their business. And in Cripple Creek, that would be a significant hit to our community. Probably reduce our staff considerably and what programs we can offer. We do have to have full-time fire, full-time police, full-time EMS. So that, as you all know, is expensive. And to keep those people employed takes a lot of money. So that's something we want to look at next year when that's coming up. So just a heads up. Yep. And our schools, we're still operating under our capacity, considerably under our capacity. So yep, I'm building houses as fast as I can up there. So we can get some folks in. We think we have an apartment complex coming online here pretty soon with 40 to 50 apartments. So at 30 to 60% AMI. So that is really good for our workforce. That's my update.
Okay, we're going to go Commissioner Stone, and then we're going to go online.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I would certainly echo Mr. Mosier's comments about iGaming. If you're not familiar with iGaming, basically it's anything you could do in a casino, you would now be able to do from your Barca lounger in your home, is what they are doing. And the great gaping maw of the legislature that is, wildly seeking revenue after seeing a budget increase from 2019 of $33 billion to 2025 of $44 billion, and it's still not enough to feed the gaping maw of Denver. That's what we're up against. And for us, obviously the southern part of our county, and it feeds, actually, even there's a lot of people employed in the gaming industry that live in El Paso County and go up to work up there. So it will not just affect us. And of course, also El Paso County is recipient of gaming impact funds as a neighboring county to gaming. So those would be impacted as well. Also want to put out a cautionary tale though, gaming impact funds and gaming revenues I know the state will have a wandering eye towards those. As well as mineral severance impact funds. They already took a look at those last year of trying to grab some of those to use them elsewhere in the state and for other purposes. And those funds are established obviously for a reason. There's impacts of mining that affect those counties that have mining and those communities that host mining, just as there are impacts of those counties that host defense installations. And it's both pro and con when you have those levels of industry going on in your community. So we would ask, your support on both of those areas, because the legislature is, like I said, it is a insatiable desire for revenue that they will be casting a gaze in a lot of different areas. And I kind of feel like this will be a parting shot from the governor, as to solve the revenue ills of the state, just as marijuana was going to solve the revenue issues of the state, and everything's going to solve the issues that the state has with revenue, but it is never sated, and it never will be. And at a certain point, we just have to draw the line with each other to protect our industries, to protect our communities. And frankly, that's a protect our communities thing. The negative impacts of allowing online gaming. I mean, we already have obviously online gaming in regards to sports gaming. This expands it far beyond that, so you can play slot machines, roulette, blackjack, right in the comfort of your home. And the overall negative impacts on our communities, I think, would be significant. The actual physical impacts to Teller County would be catastrophic. So on the good news side, though, and Jeff, I'm surprised you didn't mention it, yesterday we did break ground on a place for kids, which is the first kind of public-private partnership between NGOs and the city of Cripple Creek to open a child care center in the city of Cripple Creek. $6 million project, I believe, was the last 3.6 right now. They brought it down. Okay. Well, it's 6 million now, 3.6, but through participation of the city of Cripple Creek, we're able to get a $1 million DOLA grant. Significant contributions also by El Pomar and several other foundations that I can't think of off the top of my head. But anyway, I think 400 people showed up for that groundbreaking yesterday. It was tremendous. And Southern Teller County is a wasteland for childcare. And with that, I think it will change how families view living in the southern half of our county and working in the southern half of our county, because there'll finally be an opportunity, whether it's a family from Victor or Cripple Creek or anywhere in the rural areas of southern Teller County, will have childcare available from infant all the way through preschool. So it's
Yeah, let me correct you on
hopefully
that.
a game changer.
It goes up to 13 years old, and we're actually focusing on school age first. There'll be 4 classrooms, 2 of which will be for school age, infant, toddler, and then a preschool, because we already have a Head Start program, which kind of answers some of the question. But this is definitely a need, and actually can be child care for the commuters that come into the mine and the casinos. So from Canyon City and El Paso County, we do have a lot of commuters that come in, about 1,200 a day for those industries. And so they can bring their kids with them if they want. And now, rather than leaving work for the entire day to deal with a sick kid, they can drive into Cripple Creek, deal with their sick kid, and go back to work. So we're really looking forward to it. It's a great facility, and yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Totally missed it.
Yeah, it was exciting, and thanks for the clarification on how it will launch. But and actually, Mary Beals, who's been one of the drivers behind the project, she was holding up these signs talking about how school's in session for 143 days in Cripple Creek, because they do a 4-day school week, but means there's 222 days where kids aren't in school. There's 2 out of every 3 days now will be kids not in school, and this center will help provide safe places for those kids to be, so their parents can choose to be productive in Southern Teller County. So that's exciting. The other exciting part is, as I was driving to this yesterday, I saw an entire tree that was beautiful orange and rust colored, so it has begun. So please come visit Teller County and enjoy not just the peak of the leaves, but I think the transition is kind of one of the coolest times as well, because to hit the peak, you got to hit it perfect. But when you're in the process, it's just, you get to enjoy it the whole time. So that's all.
Okay. Let's go to online. If Commissioner Amy Mitchell has anything going on in Park County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to segue perfect, Commissioner Stone. We are gearing up for leaf peeping season and wanted to let everyone know that Guanella Pass usually gets crazy traffic. And to the point where one leaf peeping year, it took over an hour to get emergency services up Guanella Pass to help somebody. So we are going to be strictly enforcing the no parking signs, and vehicles will be towed if they are illegally parked along the highway, along the road, or at no parking signs. And we're going to do our best to try to maintain some order for safety. Really, it's for safety. Other than that, anyone who comes up, please, the contrast is starting to become really real. It's really pretty. I saw some beautiful color today on a tree that was still a little bit green. So it's going to be quite a nice season for leaf peeping. So we welcome everyone to Park County. Just drive slow, and if you're enjoying the scenery, pull off the road, because we have people stop on 285 to look at the leaves when it's a state highway. So anyway, thank you very much, and we appreciate you. And that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem King in Monument. Do you have any Monument news?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, summer's ending, as we all know, and we have our Vines and Brew Pop Fest coming on September 20th on Saturday with regional craft brewers that all show up. Tickets do sell out, so if you're interested, you can get those through the Tri-Lake Chamber of Commerce. It's really a great event, and it's pretty much all day. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Shaw of Rama.
Well, I haven't seen the final tally of our Rainbow Days event, but I was there all day and it seemed to be a pretty good event, good turnout. We had plenty of food vendors, but if anybody has any leads on other vendors that would like to participate in next year's event, I'd appreciate if they could forward that information to our town clerk, Cindy. That would be greatly appreciated. We're trying to expand it and help it grow, but we're going through some growing pains here. So if anybody has any suggestions or leads that we can follow to help expand it, we'd appreciate it. That's really all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Williams, do you have anything from the city of Colorado Springs?
Good morning. I just want to echo Mayor Graham's statements about Marcy. She was thankfully a trailblazer in this community. And if you would have asked me how old she was, I never would have guessed that she was, she just made it to 90. She was always spry. She was always energetic. She was always excited to help and meet. And I know that she was always there for me whenever I had a question or something that felt like a one-off. So yes, she will be missed. And due to a conflict with council and everything else, I was not able to attend on Monday, but I hope it was well attended. City of Colorado Springs, we always have a ton of news, but I'll just throw out one for those kind of in the north end of town. We're going to be opening Fire Station 24. And the grand opening will be September 24th. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but if they did, that was clever. And it's up at 2415 New Life Drive, starting at 10:30. So if anybody wanted to come by the grand opening, we would love to have them, and appreciate all of your time today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, the county HVAC system is fixed in Centennial Hall. The politicians overwhelmed it with hot air this summer, and it went out of whack for about 8 weeks. So it's cool again at the county. It's cool to be in the county. So other than that, there are upcoming meetings listed in the agenda. Is there any other business that needs to come before the committee? Okay, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.